Welcome to the XS Noize Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Millar. Today, I'm joined by musician, journalist, author, broadcaster, and founder of Louder Than More, John Robb. If you missed our last episode with Matt Berniner of The National talking about his new solo album, Get Sunk, be sure to check it out after this one. And don't forget to follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. John Robb has lived and shaped countless scenes, from fronting the Membranes and Goldblade to being the first UK journalist to interview Nirvana, coining the term Britpop and writing acclaimed books on punk, goth, the Stone Roses and Oasis. In this chat, we talk about his journey from Blackpool punk to author and frontman, his thoughts on the Oasis reunion, and why he still believes in pushing boundaries on stage, on the page and online. So let's get into it. This is John Robb on the XS Noize Podcast. So hi John, welcome to the XS Noize Podcast.
Hiya, how are you? Okay?
Very good. Usually it's you asking the questions, giving opinions and documenting everyone else's story, but today we'll get to turn the tables and dive into yours.
Yeah, and also it's quite interesting, that idea of turning a table, isn't it? I'll sit over here, you sit over there.
Well, you've worn so many hats: musician, journalist, author, festival founder. When people ask you what you do, how do you sum it up now?
I guess I would say music, really. I think they're all different facets of the same diamond, really. I think if you make music, you talk about music, and then you're fascinated in the process of making music, and you're fascinated in other people's process of making the music. And beyond, really. It's not just music, it's just everything. I'm just one of those people who finds everything quite interesting, really. You know, whether it's a tree growing in a field or a building getting built or how you make a song, it's all pretty fascinating, really, isn't it?
Well, let's go back to Blackpool in the mid-70s. What was it about punk that first grabbed you and pushed you into starting a band?
Well, initially, I was a glam rock kid, really. You know, that's what I grew up with. But so we watched Top of the Pops in the 70s. But that music was unobtainable. I mean, you could get the music, but you couldn't, join in. You know, 12, 13 years old, you couldn't be David Bowie or Mark Bolan. They were like gods, you know. I mean, David Bowie literally did seem like he came from outer space to us in Blackpool. And when I think back now, no one ever says this, but growing up always seems really monochromatic. You know, everything's really black and white. Suddenly it all went into colour. Again, black rock was colour, but then punk was the colour you had access to the palette as well. You know, the message that came out of punk, and I probably got the message completely wrong, was that anybody could do this. I thought, oh, fucking hell, great, I can actually do this now. Of course, it wasn't quite as easy to do as you thought. I was thinking that the other day I was watching the Sex Pistols play this festival, and because I was a compere, I was standing like about 5 feet from Paul Cook watching him play drums sideways on. What an amazing drummer, you know. He's, I know I've always known he's an amazing drummer. Never mind the bollocks, one of the greatest albums ever. But when you actually watch him, you think it's all these tight little rolls and it's complex stuff, you know. It's, like a bunch of 14, 15, 16-year-olds when we start bands. You just can't do that stuff. There's no one to ask. There's no way of knowing. So we kind of fumbled our way through punk rock in the early days, which in the end, I think, was just valid as doing it proper. We just didn't realise those bands were like proper bands, you know. We just thought they were like us. We never... First time we did a gig, we didn't even know what tuning up was. You know, we were that naive. We just thought you put the machine heads in a row on the guitar. It was so out of tune. We didn't know it was out of tune. We had no idea. I mean, there was no older kids to ask. There's no one to ask. Was it like now? You just go on the internet and look it all up, don't you? But that was just inconceivable.
And how long did it take for you to find your feet in the Membranes?
Well, I don't know if we ever did, really. We made it stumbling around into an art form, but at least we ended up with our own thing, I suppose. You know, it was our version of what we thought punk rock was, in a sense. So we never really sounded like a trad punk band. We just sounded like ourselves, which is good, you know, in an art way, but it's a nightmare because no one ever actually knows what you are. You know, like most gigs, like singing gigs, aren't it? People go to a metal gig or a punk gig or whatever, but if you're not really, you don't fit in anywhere, you're just sort of left over, aren't you?
Yeah.
That's fine, isn't it? That's just the way it is, isn't it?
Well, the Membranes and Goldblade both carry such strong rebellious spirits. How do those bands express different sides of you as an artist?
I suppose, really, at the end of the day, Goldblade is when we finally worked out how to do it. It's much more, in a way, it's more conventional, isn't it? It's a band that has proper songs, isn't it? Verse, chorus. And it was constructed to just cause riots in rooms, which is fun, isn't it? The Membranes is probably more closer to where my head is musically, because it still works in that tradition, just working out, fumbling along. We got into an art form. I mean, we know what we're doing now, but we know what we're doing in our own language, really. That's what it was. And it is quite an original band, I suppose. And but that was just, it's probably the fastest. I love both kinds of music, I'm pretty broad-minded anyway, but I would like, at the same time in punk, or I like the experimental post-punk stuff, and I would love the really conventional kind of punk as well. I really like the energy on it. I like everybody. I like tunes and melodies, but also like things you go, wow, that's that little sound. I can't look at what that is, So it's funny music, and it's really hard to pin it down, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like trying to nail down an octopus for hammer and nails. Not that I would do that, but it's kind of like that. And he's kind of, as soon as you think you got it in one place, he squidges off somewhere else, doesn't it?
I mean, in the bands, you've staged gigs with choirs, sans talks, even played on top of a Blackpool tower. So what drives you to constantly reinvent that? What a live show could be?
It's just that thing and interest of like try and do something different in it as much as you can. And it's quite easy in a band just to slip into just do the same thing over and over. You play the same songs in the same kind of venues night after night, which is great. It's exciting and it's fun. But you also like to be out of your depth sometimes and try to do things that are slightly beyond you. And that was interesting, like working with a choir was like that. So, the first time I worked with a choir, I'd seen a choir in Estonia at this music festival. He said, let's do a gig, and they're really up for it. And then I had to go out to Estonia and sing the choir parts to the choir, which is quite disconcerting. There's about 40 of them, and they're like proper singers. And that's cool, isn't it? It's good to be, that's what I learned in punk rock. You could dare to do stuff. To me, that was a revolution in it, the empowering idea that you could just go and do it. I mean, it didn't work. It didn't matter, did it? You just had to go. You had no idea how to do it. You ended up with some kind of hybrid of it. And that's probably been most things that I've done in my life, really. I mean, I'm not, like now, I mean, a lot of young bands go to colleges, don't they? Learn how to be in a band, or music writers learn how to be music writers, which is fine, isn't it? Because it's a career thing, isn't it? But it was never like that for the people I knew. It was just, you just did it. And if it worked, it worked. And if it didn't, it didn't. So I think music and culture is a great space for that, isn't it? Because it's actually a space where if it doesn't work, the world won't fall apart, will it?
Do you think now, today, is a better time for being in a band compared to back in your day?
It's a different set of advantages and a different set of problems. So there's more bands now, way more bands than there used to be. So that makes it difficult. There's more knowledge around because of the internet, because you can go on a music course, whatever. So you can get that 3 years of fumbling out of the way quicker. There's more information, but does that trap you into a certain type thing? Or does it mean you have to really use your imagination to find a way to get around what you've been taught to unteach yourself? And that's interesting. It's weird because people always say there's less venues, but I think there's more venues. There's loads of venues now. There's more opportunity to go out and play, but it's harder to make money because it's thinner slices of the cake. The music business changed. When I started, and we never got this, but there was like tour support, for bands that were slightly bigger than us. They pay for you to go on tour, whereas now you have to really run it like a little corner shop.
Yeah.
You have to be quite savvy, like a little greengrocers or something. It's a different model, completely different model. But then it should be, shouldn't it? Because it was never the same in the 70s as it was in the 1930s. But then there are some things that remain true. You have to have something that connects the people. You have to, and like if you're playing in a band, and not all music's like this, but if you're playing in a band, you have to be able to play in front of an audience to somehow connect with an audience. And, a lot of bands break these days, not because, there's no radio really as much as it used to be, but they have to tour, do support tours, and then they have to hustle to get that tour, get on that tour, play that tour, somehow connect with the audience who's never heard them before. And that's just the same as it was in 1955. So some things don't change at all, do they?
Beyond making music, John, you've been central in documenting it. You were the first to interview Nirvana and even coined the word Britpop. So looking back, Did it feel like you were capturing history as it happened, or was it just another part of your day job?
It was never like a job, even. That's, never been a proper job, really. It was just doing stuff. So you just get really into something, you write about it, and sometimes you get paid for writing about it. So that was a good equation. So Nirvana, I didn't write about Nirvana or interview them because I thought they're going to be the biggest band in the world. I just really liked the tape I'd heard of the first single before it came out. Most people at that time heard it said, "This is what this is the run to the letter. This pop and find a band that it's not as good as the other bands." But I just loved his voice. I mean, I'm not claiming any great A&R skill. It's just I've got quite a quirky taste, and I just thought, wow, what a singer! It sounds amazing. I thought he sounded like John Lennon, and that rasping, melodic voice, the Sex Beatles thing. The combination, which is quite interesting because it's the same as Oasis, isn't it? They had that sort of Sex Pistols, Beatles crossover thing. The melodies, the Beatles, the power of the Pistols, both bands at the same time. That was quite, only just occurred to me a couple of years ago how they were almost in parallel with each other. So yeah, it was just like that. It was just fascinating with ideas, and it happens all the time, to this day. People send me stuff, I can't listen to everything, it's impossible, but you still hear things to go, oh, wow, that's amazing. What is that? And how come they came up with that? Why didn't I think of that?
I mean, you've written landmark books, which we'll get on to some. You've written books on punk, goth, and Manchester's music scene. So what draws you to capturing those stories in print, and how do you know when a movement deserves its own book?
It's more, again, it's a personal fascination, really. I mean, it's not like you're sitting there one afternoon thinking, if I wrote a goth book, that'll do really well. You have no idea, do you? You just think, you sit there one afternoon thinking, that's weird, there's no books about goth. And also, why are people so sniffy about these bands? They're amazing bands, some of the greatest art rock bands the country's ever produced. And I really love to read a really in-depth thing about Bauhaus that took them really seriously as a band that was doing really great work, And I thought, well, I may as well write that then, because no one else has done it. That's how that came about. Oasis is totally different. I did that interview with Noel Gallagher for Definitely Maybe album, 30th anniversary. He was filmed in Sifners. It did 1 million views in about 3 days. It was massive. And then they announced they're going to reform. And then the book company came to me and said, do you want to do the book? You've only got 4 months to do it, but do you want to do it? And I said, yeah, I know the story. I was there at the beginning, knew them before, so I got it in my head. I've got the interviews. I'll get another one off Noel. And that was the book. Because I know all the people, all the people in that story. I know them all because then you get to know a lot of people, don't you, when you're running around town. So a lot of those people, when they started, I knew them, like Brian Cannon. He's only 18. He's just at university. And he sent me his artwork book. He made himself, actually, amazing little book. And I had no idea he's going to end up being a massive artist or anything. He's just good, I think it's a role you play as a music writer, isn't it? You're the first person to recognise someone's talent. It's really important, isn't it? Even outside their friends will go to their gigs because they're mates. Often you could actually be the first person ever in the whole world actually goes, you know what, you're really good at what you're doing. I think, to me, that's more important than a review. I think, you got to come after a gig and go, wow, that's a moment, isn't it, really? I think so you have to be very aware of that role, isn't it? That's why I don't really have any truck people going to see young bands and slugging them off, in time, Yeah. I'd rather go and see a young band trying to work out their own thing than a band just doing loads of covers, I mean, that's fine. If you need to make money, that's okay, but I'm not interested in it. But I'm interested in people doing their own thing, and if it connects to me, then it's a perfect moment, isn't it?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the book about Oasis. I've read quite a few books about Oasis, and I'm not just saying this, it's definitely the best book I've read, especially the early chapters or the chapters on the early days. I really enjoyed the depth because you were there. So
I'm describing stuff that's right in front of me, New Mountain Street. I was in there, Boardwalk, I was in there, those early gigs, I was at them, I know the venues, the people. I like that stuff as well, I just think about all the books I've read about bands. I like the colour, the local colour that gets added in, nothing comes out of a vacuum, and it's, you want to get a sense of where they were, what it looked like, and I like to think of a book like a film as well. It's visual, isn't it? So when you're reading the book, you can sort of play it as a film. It's describe stuff. to help people get an idea what things look like, felt like, smelt like. It's not just a rehearsal room, is it? It's a place they spent 2 years writing a classic album. The room's got nothing to do with how the record comes out, of course. But I just love the idea of them being in that room, doing the thing, and every day, which is quite amazing. It's hardly anybody rehearses that much. You get a sense of how disciplined they were.
Yeah, you could really, the detail you went into in the book was amazing. And you said that their Irish lineage was an important part of their story. Why did you say that? Why do you think it?
Massively, I'm not just saying this now, but it's really important, isn't it? I think most British rock and roll's got Irish blood in it. I think it's very few bands. You start doing the list, you think, oh God, as well. From the Beatles, well, there's a pretty good start, isn't it? There's a really good quote from John Savage in the book about that. Obviously the Irish, but the Irish are very good at expressing their love of words, music, melody, poetry, storytelling. But I know the English are good at it as well, but we're not quite as good at expressing it. But I think we learned from the Irish that, I think it really helps in the cities like Manchester, the Anglo-Irish mixture. Potent mix, great for both sides as well, and I think it helped the Irish as well, didn't it? Being here, I think, the English are artful, very artful, surprisingly artful for, sort of people we are. We're not the world's greatest dancers or anything, are we? So you don't come to England and think, look, they're just naturally musical. We're not like that, but somehow we're very good at it, aren't we? I think the Irish helped us, but we helped the Irish. Maybe we helped the Irish get organised, or get created a space. But working together, powerful, isn't it? And that's an important message, isn't it?
Yeah, you mentioned the Sifters interview, which was brilliant with Noel a few weeks before the official announcement. What did you talk about in that interview that we haven't seen yet?
Oh, yeah, there's about another half hour, 45 minutes of it, but I've never seen it. So I can only remember from being in the room. I mean, I was employed by his management to do the interview, so I couldn't record it. So I should have left the board on my phone, shouldn't I? Just stood there. There's a chunk of other stuff, and I'm trying to remember what it is. One thing I do remember is maybe it's before the interview or when it started, but I can't remember. There's a copy of Red Rose Speedway there, Paul McCartney album. And in the Oasis video, they're flicking through because they make a video in Sifters, don't they? The Shaker Maker, I think. And it's
yes, it's Shaker Maker, yeah. You see Liam holding it.
Yeah, and it's Red Rose Speedway. I was just saying, that's the same copy. We just had a bit of a laugh about it. Wow, they hadn't sold it after all this time. The other thing, it's great, that shop. It's just like the classic dusty old record shop. It's got these posters of all rock classic on the wall, really faded posters from the 80s. U2, Beatles, Stones, Jimi Hendrix, Doors. I'm looking around them all, and there's only one new poster, Oasis. So I said to Noel, look, you made it now. You're on Sifters Hall of Fame. So stuff like that, having a bit of a laugh and chat. But there was other stuff in there, but they've got the footage, so I'm not even allowed to mention the books. The interview is funny, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah, they're very strict, these big managements, aren't they? I mean, I could have said to Noel, and he'd just say, yeah, put it in. It's because but I don't want to ask him lots of favours. He's kind of mate, really. You don't want to say, is it all right to do this and that? I can only ask him for stuff off someone all the time. Not good, is it? Yeah.
I mean, you were actually there at Rockfield when that famous Gallagher fight broke out. What was the atmosphere like in the room, and how do you think that fight shaped what Oasis would become?
Oh, I think they're already making that album, weren't they? They'd already done. It's the end of the first week, so they'd already put down about 5 tracks. So they'd done it that day. This is why I didn't realise at the time, but I did a bit of research. And Liam was in town on the piss just after doing the vocals for Champagne Supernova. So, which he played to us. It was like an unmixed. It sounded pretty finished, but version that track. I mean, you stand there thinking, wow, he's just playing. This is all the next album. This is just playing about 4 tracks. One way, it's kind of funny that Cable started slagging it off and the whole thing kicked off because it's a great story. On the other hand, I was quite happy listening to the tracks because it sounded great. I was still there going, wow, that was amazing. They were quite, the more anthemic ones sounded really powerful. Liam was buzzing on it, saying it's the greatest. Of course, it's not big-headed, is it? Being a band, that's what you want to feel when you made a track. I mean, most bands have done that. Occasionally, in the bands I've been in, you come out the studio and go, wow, that's unbeatable. You can't get that any better. It sounds amazing. It's not a big-headed thing. You just know you've got it right. And I'm thinking, wow, they have got this right. But Cable, who are not drinkers, and Liam got them really drunk because he's a good guy, Irish, innit? Sense of party, innit? Got a lot of drink, give it out to the other bands, but they couldn't handle their drink, could they? But I was the only sober person there because I was just making cups of tea because I don't drink. I was thinking, this is not going very well, this, is it? And then it went all exploded and I had to be down and stop the fight. So I missed the next bit where Noel and Liam have the fight because we'd gone by that. Well, I had to get them out because I thought this is really going to kick off. And I suppose if I'm the producer, I can't really have the band getting battered on my watch. So I drag them off down the path after about half an hour of it. I mean, we were there for a few hours, and then it just started to get a bit mad.
Yeah, as you said, you were producing the band, but from a journalistic point of view, you must have thought this is a gift.
Well, at the time, I mean, I've never been a tabloid writer, so I'm not really that bothered about, this is going to be a great story. I'm just thinking, what drag, they're all having a fight, because I didn't know, where do I go in this situation? I'm working this band, and Cable are really good guys, but this is a band that I kind of know from Manchester. So I can't really take any sides here. But obviously, a couple of members of Cable got really drunk. They were just being silly, really. And I thought, they were nice. They wouldn't go start fights to bands. That wasn't their thing, And it's, but it just, so I had to what I could do is what I did is basically get them out of there before it just went off big style, because everybody's getting drunk by then, but I wasn't. So I could see this is not a good situation. I did meet Lee about 2 weeks after at Glastonbury. He just thought, that was really funny that night, wasn't it? It is actually, we look back on it.
It is. Well, that's a legendary story. Now that the Oasis are back together and they're touring, and it's the biggest ticket of the year, obviously, once it all settles down, when the shows are over, should they record new music?
Yeah, I think. I don't know if have you seen the shows yet?
Yeah, it was at Wembley, one of the Wembley shows.
Just amazing. People say to me, "Do you think they're going to be as good as they used to be?" No, they're about 100 times better. But they were good then, of course. But
yeah,
now they sound like one of the greatest rock and roll bands ever. The 3-guitar thing, it's fantastic, isn't it? And it's all worked out. Everyone's got the little parts. Noel plays the solos, which is really important because he puts the emotion in there. And Liam's, he's really worked hard to get his vocal probably at his peak. It's like, I know your voice goes as you get older, but if you look after it, you can actually have a better voice because you've got little cracks in it, which can sound really good, but he's still got the power and the intensity. That band's, I did message I said, that band's hot, you need to record it. So I suppose it depends, you got the songs, I get it. I get why you wouldn't do it because everyone would go, it's not as good as the tour, or it wasn't as good as this album or that album. But in a way, they've already done that with the latter albums. Everyone moaned about those, but they're great records. The later Oasis records are really good records. The first 2 records are records by the group that wants to be the biggest group in the world. And that is an exciting feeling that the later records are made by a group that's only a big band. So it's only selling 5 million, not 20 million. And they're experimental. And there's some weird little bits. And it's kind of art rock. It's a bit like a very sophisticated, better thought out version of the Membranes versus Goldblade, I suppose, isn't it? It's in my world, my little micro world, the first 2 Oasis albums will be the Goldblade ones, the rabble-rousing riot songs. The later records are the weird shit art rock post-punk things, which Noel's into, and that's his Membranes phase. Well, I'm only looking at very much my own perspective here. I'm sure he never was thinking that, but also art rock, but made into pop songs because he's got a really good talent for pop, and he knows how to make weird, idiosyncratic ideas into pop songs, which is a great skill. I wish I had that skill, to I can think up the ideas and the weird bits of sound and the concepts and that, but to actually make it into something that makes sense to millions of people is great. I mean, every band tries to do it. I mean, the bands that tell you they don't are just lying. Every band I've interviewed, nobody puts out a record to sell to their 36 mates. That's people want to sell. And it's not even about the money. People just want to be able to communicate with lots of people. So you play it to a lot of people in the room, and they all go, "Wow, it's a great feeling. It's a buzz, isn't it?" And you don't want to play. I mean, it can be quite good playing in a room and everyone goes, "Wow, what's this shit?" And that like wall of like misunderstanding. I've had a few of those, and that could be quite Quite interesting.
Well, before the announcement, I think Noel said that he'd been writing songs and they were very sort of rocky sort of songs. So you never know, you know.
Yeah, that's another thing. You don't stop writing. The last album, Council Skies, is really good. I mean, the video is great, isn't it? It's great because I'm in it. The psychotic barman. Yeah. But it's a really good. The songs in it are good, but they're not Liam's songs in that album, are they? They're more. When Noel writes from himself, or the B-sides of Oasis, that's kind of him doing his introspective songs, you know, because he's actually really, well, he's very smart, and considered, but you know, quite a lot of emotional intelligence. These things you never see in a description of Oasis, are they? You know, but this is actually, I think, what his songs are, the B-sides, the acoustic songs, you know, those beautiful songs like Rocking Chair, you know, they are beautiful, aren't they? You know, little snapshots of emotions and that. And the A-sides on the Riot songs, aren't they? Which Liam is completely brilliant at singing, isn't it? But also it adds another different type, another level of emotion to it as well. Actually, this is the odd thing, one just thought this, when Liam's own songs he writes in Oasis are quite introspective as well, aren't they, generally? There's only a couple of them are Riot songs. The rest of them are like really beautiful songs. So when they write songs for themselves, they seem to write introspective songs. But when they sort of write songs for the band, they become more the anthemic Riot songs. That's quite odd, and I've never thought that before. So even Liam is an introspective songwriter, but very good at writing. So it's great. I love the way they embrace that kind of stuff as well, though. You know, like, you know, there's a good bit of my interview in March for the book, and he said the critics he's going about a sound like Slade and Status Quo. And he said for a long time, I thought that was being complimentary. I didn't realise there was like, I'm totally down with you on that. Because Slade and Status Quo in the 70s were fantastic singles bands. You know, I mean, as much as I love art rock and I like all kinds of mad music, but you know, there's something really exciting about a stomping song with the whole crowd can sing along. I was looking at the footage from Dublin. It's like, oh, wow, look at that! It's amazing. All the whole stadium singing along. You know, it goes beyond the money. It goes beyond everything. It's just to communicate that many people. It's one of my little pet theories about music. You know, the world's in complete chaos, and the only time that we can find any harmony in it often is in music, isn't it? We're all in a room, we're all in the same place, we're all singing along, we're actually in harmony. And probably the only other place you get that is when a football, you know, chant or something, or an anthem, where everyone's singing together. It's like the world's least sophisticated choir, but it's working on the same principle. Everyone's singing together. It's an amazing sound. Noel actually sent me a little video this morning, actually, of the crowd singing. What's that song? You know,
are you talking about the Dublin show, Half the World Away?
No, it wasn't even one of their songs. It's the intro song, because they played. What did they play? They played. Oh God, I'm calling the title up now. But it's like an old Irish folk song, and it's, you know, about being in prison, and the whole crowd singing along. I was thinking, oh God, that sounds amazing. You know, he said, like, to even walk out onto the stage with the crowd singing that was a really powerful, emotive feeling. You know, it's. I said, you've got to be all right, aren't you? You would have been all right, because you knew you had like 18 classics in your back pocket.
Yeah, but it's been amazing, even seeing some of the footage from the fans outside the stadiums, you know, when they're waiting to get in, or they're out of the bar. And I seen one the other day in Dublin, and there was thousands of people outside a pub singing Half the World Away. I thought that's the one you meant. You know, and there's been scenes like that in Manchester and Dublin and Scotland. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's more. This is more than a tour now, and it's not just a rock and roll band doing a tour. It's a cultural phenomenon, isn't it? It's a game changing cultural phenomenon. You know, you've never seen gigs like this. You know, it's people. You know, like a lot of people can be quite sniffy about Oasis, but you can't be sniffy about the way that the crowd are reacting to these gigs. You know, it's a cultural game changer, isn't it? Where I was just thinking, and the crowd, the two shows I went to Eaton Park in Manchester, it's not all old dudes, you know, it's a lot of really young people there. I think if you're 16, 17-year-old kid, woman or bloke, you're going to walk into that gig and go, wow, one out of 10 of those is going to go home and make a band. And it may be guitar bands, or it may be electronic, it may be something. It's going to inspire people to do something because they want a slice of that vibe, you know, that it's magical, isn't it? Really magical. You know, we should be celebrating this, you know, because it's so rare that music has that power to go across everything, you know, and create moments that feels like that. I mean, it's beyond the band, you know. if I message actually say no or something, he's just like bemused as I am. I'm not bemused because the band, quite the band. It's just the level is way beyond what everyone thought it was going to be. In it, I think everyone thought, yeah, of course, everyone's going to have a sing along. It's beyond that, isn't it? It's just the atmosphere is unique. It's
we've never seen anything like it.
No, I think in 20 years, people are going to go, God, that was a moment. It's a game-changing moment. A game-changing moment that was headline news. That wasn't bad news. It was actually good news for once, wasn't
it? Yeah. We must talk about the Stone Roses, a band that you've written more than anyone else. And obviously, if it hadn't been for the Stone Roses, we wouldn't have Oasis. The Roses had that mysterious charisma, that almost mythical presence. Do you think they were aware of the cultural wave they were creating?
I think so. Yeah, I think. I'm sure they were. Especially, I think Ian Brown has always been a bit like Noel, really, like a very, and Johnny Marr as well. These guys, they really understand pop culture. They understand the closed music cultural equation. The idea, the style and the music sort of match and that, and the cultural impact of rock and roll. It's interesting, isn't it? Because with Noel and Ian Brown, it's all about Nevermind the Bollocks. That's the number one album, isn't it? That's the I think there's every generation has a band that changes everything. In my generation, it was the Pistols, and I think Noel, because he's a bit young, he's only not that much younger than me, but he's just the other end of the punk generation. He was a kid. He's a 12-year-old kid in punk. And I always think he's the last of the Manchester punk generation to make it. Ian Brown's slightly older than Noel. So he was in punk. I remember as a kid, I'd be 16, Ian Brown be 40, just little kids. Been really punk changed our lives, and it's the same way the Stone Roses changed people's lives. I think that the Stone Roses were much more couched in punk. The idea that it's like the Clash. You become the biggest band. You're on the way to be the biggest band in the world, so you fuck it up because it's not punk to be the biggest band in the world. So it's really hard to explain. Everyone else would just think that's totally mad to do that. But if you grew up in punk, the idea, the self-destruct thing, is part of what punk was, because it was the Pistols. When we had the Pistols, I was saying this to something the other day. Every generation's, the Beatles did several albums, didn't they? They had the own the 60s. David Bowie had a good run the 70s, but my generational band did one album and fell apart within 14 months. I thought that said everything about my generation. And it's about, and the Stone Roses kind of come from that aesthetic as well. It's about denialism as well, the self-destruct. It's all in there. You make brilliant records that inspire people. It's like those painters who do a brilliant painting and burn it so no one can see it. And I like that idea. It's actually a cool idea, So it's the Roses are in there, and also they're really volatile. It's what made them strong, wasn't it? It's it's 4 people in that band, and everybody had a reason to be there, and they knew it. So you can't really. They did try to do the band with different members. It doesn't work, does it? So everybody had a power of veto. So if you fall out with the drummer, and the drummer says, "I'm not doing the gig," you're stuck. You can get another drummer in, and Robin Mannix is a really good drummer. It's not his fault, but he just can't. Rennie's a different type drummer that really suits the Stone Roses, doesn't he? There was a magical thing between the 4 of them, and it's a powerful, magical, creative bond in it, and everyone's got a role that's equally important in it. Manny's a brilliant bass player. Manny's also. You need this in a band. The audience member who got the break. The one like Bonehead is in Oasis. He's like your mate in the pub, but he's fucking really good at what he does. But he's up there on the stage, So it doesn't feel. Obviously Liam Gallagher's a one-off star, and he knew it from when he's a kid. He had that thing. So you can be if you're a young lad, you could sort of pretend to be a version of that. You're never going to get there. But with with Bonehead, you could do that. It's attainable. But this is forgetting that Bonehead's actually a really brilliant guitar player as well. So the Roses had that, didn't they? William Brown just had that charisma. Still has that charisma. He's just one of those people he walks down the road, everyone goes, "Who the fuck's that?" But what's he doing? What's this guy up to? Now he looks like a wizard, doesn't he? Like a wizard who's come down from the mountains, and he still looks amazing. A Daily Mail thing the other day. It's like, oh, fuck off, famous.
What was that?
They did a thing that they got a picture with long grey hair, and they said, "Oh, look at his." It's one of those. Look at him. Look at him now. You're thinking, well, he is 62 for a start, And he still looks amazing. He looks much better than any Daily Mail writer, doesn't he? You know.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
cooler.
and there aren't many 62-year-olds that are as lean as he and still look like, and he looks like a wizard. You know, that's a great thing to look like when you're 62-year-old rock star, isn't it?
Well, he was in Harry Potter.
Yeah, perfect for Harry Potter, wasn't it? You know.
Just one more on the Roses, John. When they reunited in 2012, do you think, did it feel like unfinished business resolved, or does their mistake actually lie in keeping the story unfinished?
Well, they didn't resolve it, did they? That's the thing. I mean, classic Roses, isn't it? They did the tour. The tour did really well. I was on a lot of the dates. I think I was in one of the bands that played with him. Well, not I'm sort of in. I was to compare to Mick Jones doing the Hillsborough tour, you know, when they did the Clash songs. And I got to sing a Clash song. It was great. I got to sing Rock the Casbah at Eaton Park in front of 80,000 people. That's a bit of a buzz. And so it's, but, you know, so they had it was on a plate, wasn't it? If they delivered a third album at that point, they could have done the greatest comeback ever, couldn't they? It was exciting when they did the comeback, wasn't it? And but it would, in a way, because they fizzled out, then they came back again, then they fizzled out again. It's still unfinished business, isn't it? It's just like the Pistols is, isn't it? It's almost like one of their song titles. It's set in stone, isn't it? You've got your classic songs, nothing else. I've got, you know, Rennie's I think he only ever recorded, released something like 25 songs. And he's like one of the most famous drummers of all time. And he's hardly ever recorded anything. Most people by now done about 30 albums, haven't they? So it's almost perfect that they just didn't do too much, did they? It was they always were like that though. And they always used to come on stage a little late to build up the tension. And it's always a tease with the Roses, wasn't it? It was always it's unattainable, wasn't it? The band that would disappear, they'd always disappear. They would disappear from the start. You know, like they did them gigs in '85, then went back on rehearsal for a year and a half, and everyone thought they'd given up. You know, and then they don't look disappeared again. That was always their way, wasn't it? They were never in the tabloids. They were never hanging around in showbiz, were they? They're always up the mountains like wizards. That was their thing, wasn't
it? John, you've never just documented scenes, you've actually built platforms for them. So when you launched Louder Than More website, what was your original vision and how do you think it's evolved over the years from what you envisaged at the start?
That's right, for other music websites, right, when they started, you know, at the very beginning, I thought, well, this is a really great platform. So I can see how it would work in the future, which is how it works now, isn't it? It's like, you're not restricted to having to pay W.H. Smith thousands of pounds to get your magazine into the paper shops, which is what you have to do, you know. It's a beginning of that process, which is how music disseminates now, where the fans have the power in it. So I'm not, you know, people say you're looking after the gateposts now. I'm not interested in that at all. You know, I don't see myself as an expert. You know, I see myself as a fan really, and maybe from the punk days, but it's a digital fanzine. But in the punk days, you can only make a few hundred fanzines, whereas now potentially 100 million people could read something on a website because if people find it, they read it. You know. So we have a lot of readers, we have a lot of reach. It's a worldwide reach. We just run it based off mobile phones. You know, we don't have an office or anything. It's just wherever you are at that time, you write it and put it up. So it's sometimes when people start writing for it, they say, well, how shall I write it? Or we'll go, well, why are you asking me? Well, I need to write it. Because I came from that background where you just did it. You're doing it yourself, innit? I'm just providing a space for people to write. You know, it's not a monetized thing. We hardly make any money at all. It's just enough to just keep it going, really. So it's a space where people can learn the discipline of being a writer. Because in all arts culture, you need a discipline. You know, you have to get things done in a certain time. And it's also a platform of ideas as well. I like the way that people can write about what they like. And we don't tell people, we don't have a house policy what we write about, you know. I'm interested I just think, what's this somebody's written about? That's interesting. It's good for me. I read it. I read the site, but I'm one of its readers as well as being its editor. So I find out loads of stuff from my site, you know, and it's, so that's kind of the aesthetic of it. It's just a space where things happen, you know, and you can make things happen. Because I do say to writers, there's a different role now, you know, you're not only reviewing the gig, you're going out to somebody in the room. But the band's great, and somebody's a manager. And I've done this. I did this with Charlie XCX. I saw her play about 20 people in a pub in Camden, and I went up to her after and said, "Wow, you're amazing." She was amazing, and I said, that guy over there, he manages bands. You should go and speak to him. I introduced him. He did become a manager all the way up to about #1 in America. I think
Wow.
he owes me a favour, doesn't he?
Yeah, big time.
But I think that's what you should be. You're a catalyst and you join people as well. You're a connector. That's important. I think our roles are changed. I'm not a music writer. I'm a, is it facilitator or catalyst? Oh, catalyst is a good word. And I like the idea, making things happen. The band's already there. You don't discover a band. It's like discovering, Christopher Columbus didn't discover America. There's 3 million people already there, weren't there? With a very advanced, amazing culture, you don't discover a band. They've already been in the rehearsal room. You could connect them up. You can make it move a little bit quicker for them if you can. That's what we're here for. We do the writing, review it and push it out there just to get a few more people to hear it. And they can, and I know what they do, bands will use the quotes out the review, put it, try and get more views somewhere else. And that's the process. And it's great. I like to be part of that.
John, you've lived through and documented so many different scenes. Is there one you wish you'd been able to spend more time in it at the height of it?
Well, weirdly, punk, because I was an outsider in punk, which I quite like, actually. I think being an outsider just gives you a really important perspective. Growing up in Blackpool, you could hardly say I was in punk rock central, but it made me a unique version of it, because it's filtered through that experience of growing up in quite an odd place to grow up, really. But it would have been really cool to go back to 1976 and go to the early Pistol shows. And then, a hell of a jump, just to being, I was 15 then, so being a little 15-year-old kid turning up on an early Pistols gig would have been a bit of a freak out, I had the head on Bowie, I understood all that, but to just turn up at a gig in a real live space full of these amazing looking freaky people would have been a head fuck, of course. That's what's brilliant about it, wasn't it, So it would have been good to be, from a distance, I was into it, but it'd be nice to be inside the whole thing. And over the years, I met quite a lot of the inner circle people. I was really good friend to Jordan, who worked in Mark Millar's shop, the one, the Mondrian face paint and the white spag hair. Probably the first punk in the world, really, because she turned up in the shop in 1975 and they would go, wow, she looks amazing. She made this shop assistant. So she ran the shops, kind of. So you meet some people like that who were amazing, and she was like, really amazing woman, really interested in everybody she ever met, really into music. To the day she died, she'd be turning up at every gig in Brighton, standing at the front, still really into bands and that. Then I met other inner circle people, completely snobby and horrible, and just thought, oh, punk was over when the provincials got into it. That's what all of them said was, so provincials, we're not your provincials. The empire's over, mate, But then maybe you need that snobbery to drive things forward, It's, you either react with it or against it, I don't really care what the snobs think. I don't care what anyone thinks, You have to start to think, oh, who does he think he is like in that? It's like, I go to gigs sometimes and Manchester people say, how come you're here? I go, well, I'm into music. I don't just like one thing. I like lots of stuff, like lots of different things. Generally, filter of punk because it was such a massive influence. But then I was thinking that maybe a lot of the kids who got into punk were already punks. They're just waiting for someone to come along and formulate a thing around the energy. It wasn't like we suddenly took an extreme turn in a different direction. We already felt something, and suddenly there was music, clothes, and attitude that fitted us,
And it's mad these days. You don't get scenes really anymore. Sure,
you do and you don't. I think if you were 12, 13, there would definitely be some kind of scene you were in, but it wouldn't be dictated by music. A lot of it is dictated by social media, isn't it? Or I think people like lots of different music, which I think is a good thing. But you still see people dressed in different ways. We don't know the codes, do we? Because if you were 60 odd in 1977, you'd just think a punk look like a hippie. They'd just look the same. They'd just be like people, like weird looking people. Why they're dressed like that? You wouldn't know, oh, we're not hippies, we're punks. What are you going on about? It wouldn't make any sense, would it? It's like, and I think that's important to remember that, isn't it? It's not for us to understand the exact detail. It doesn't belong to us, does it? So if you're like 12, 13, white socks or red socks can mean everything. We don't know what the codes are. And that's cool. Like I noticed a lot of the sort of student kids in Manchester now have mullets and moustaches, which is not something I'd ever have.
I don't get that look.
No, but it's good that we don't get it. That's how it should be, isn't it? When I go to my barber, I've been going to say barber for years. He always fills me up with the latest haircuts he's had to learn. And he's moaning for about 2 years because it's a really fancy haircut to be layered up that they were all doing. And To the weirdest thing is that for years, you get loads of hassle for having your hair a bit like mine. Now people come up to you in the street and ask you where you get your hair done. It's a fucking footballers, isn't it? When they started getting mohawks, well, it's not really a mohawk, mate, but you know, that kind of punky haircuts after Beckham, they all got them. Then we became sort of respectable. And I thought, and I liked it when I knew which side I was on.
Well, John, you recently had the ultimate honour, a mural of you painted in your hometown of Blackpool. So how did it feel seeing yourself celebrated in that way?
Oh, it's cool. He's done a great good job painting. He sent me a picture of it, and I thought, I don't know who he is, you know, and he just sent this picture. I thought he was taking the piss. I thought, well, that's great. Is that AI? And he said, no, I've done it. And I was going to Blackpool because it's a punk festival. So I went down the next day and did the picture by it. I was going, wow, he actually did do it. It's just me and Robert Smith at the moment. So I thought, good company, you know.
Yeah, good company.
Yeah, and he's a really good artist. I mean, he's obviously based on an original photo, but he's actually, it looks more like me than the photo does. So it's, I'm amazed at those murals. There's good ones in Manchester as well, people do. And the level of art that they do now is, you think, wow. There's that Ian Curtis one. I thought, that's the best picture I've ever seen Ian Curtis. It's based on a photo, but it's a 40-foot high wall. And it was just like mind-blowing. It's just fantastic. When you take aerial shots of centre Manchester for ages, you can always see Ian Curtis's face in the city centre, which is kind of cool, really, isn't it? It's like he's still there as a ghost in the heart and soul of Manchester.
John, you've spent years asking other people questions, doing interviews. Is there one person still on your interview bucket list?
Well, Susie Sue would be good, wouldn't it? She's another person who really understands culture. I like those people. If you're going to do a music interview, I like those people. I mean, I don't think people should have to explain it. I like that. Sometimes you interview people and they have no idea where the music comes from or why they're doing it. It just happens, and I like that. I don't think it's not. People say it's part of the job because it's not a job. It's not part of their job to explain what they do. Nobody in art should ever have to defend or explain. They just do stuff. But on the other hand, I really like those pop culture fanatics who really know it inside out. The encyclopedias, the ones you end up with the 4-hour interview with, you know, like Manic Street Preachers are really amazing. Johnny Marr's fantastic. You know, there isn't a band you can mention he doesn't know loads about and why they did this and why they fit in there. And isn't it weird that they knew that person? You go, whoa, this is pretty good. So you have, in the end, it's a culture ping pong. Noel Gallagher, he's like that as well, you know. So, and those are the ones you really look forward to because it ends up just being it's an interview that ends up just being a culture chat and a ping pong, really. So I'm sure Susie Sue's like that because she obviously really, every step, she knew what she was doing, every style, every record, you know, and a pretty far out band as well. I mean, you forget how much acid they took. They were quite a great psychedelic band, you know. Robert Smith I was trying to get, and he was going to do it, but he disappeared again. He's pretty keen to it because I bump into him occasionally because we're both from Blackpool, you know. So he hasn't been there for 60 years, but he's very Blackpool. He likes Blackpool, and so that's how we get to start talking. And so, and he's also really savvy, you know. And also I like the way he's quite contradictory as well. Like his records swerve from one thing to another. I find that fascinating. Paul McCartney, I think McCartney would be amazing. I think he's another one. I think I don't think people like him ever get the interview. You know, his interview, he's quite guarded. Well, of course he's guarded because you have to be so careful when you're that famous. You make one wrong slip and there's like maniacs jumping out all over the internet in there. So, but I really like to get the interview where he wasn't guarded, but it's a challenge because he's good at being guarded, isn't he? But the one where he can relax and just talk about the music he loved and why this happened and that happened, and you know, and I love the Beatles, and I know a lot about the Beatles, and I thought it was great watching Get Back, you know, and it really summed it up, didn't it? It's just you're watching it and you're thinking, oh God, he actually was driving that band along, wasn't he? You know, for years people thought he was like the nursery rhyme granny song Beatle, but then you watch it and think he actually was. He didn't want to be the boss, but he's actually the one who knew. He's the one who knew how good they were. And John and George, I love them all equally. And not, you know, it's not one's better than the other type thing. But John and George were a bit bored of the Beatles, and I don't think they realised what they actually had there. I don't think you watched that thing. You must have watched it, mustn't you? Like
Like loads of
7
times.
hours, and it's like not one point in the whole thing does somebody come in and go, "Are we still number one in America this week?" It's not even talked about, is it? They just go sit there. trying to make songs up out of thin air like any other band does. But at that point in time, White Album's #1 in America, and Hey Jude, I think Hey Jude's still #1, isn't it? And Mary Hopkins replaced Hey Jude #1. So they're having loads of hits, sitting in this freezing cold warehouse, trying to write the next album. White Album's only been out 10 weeks, hasn't it? Nobody ever mentions that, do they? It's insane. Their best-selling album in America, White Album, isn't it? I don't think they realised how big they were, because there was no mention, was there? They must have thought, all bands get to this level, don't they? It must be like that. Whereas like now in your Oasis, of course, you're thinking, we've done really well, but the Beatles is one step above, which is why I think, this comeback's been astonishing. There's not been a comeback like it. It's definitely put them in the top 5 or 10 bands now. It's just, it's that astonishing. But if you want to get in that little, the toppermost of the poppermost, the rare space, which probably only the Beatles occupy, the only way you could do that is pulling off the greatest comeback album of all time, as a measure of your talent, And no one is talented, but it's not just talented, it's getting in the right place, right time, right performance. It's a big long checklist. But if you want to be up there, eyeball to eyeball, the Beatles, you've got to pull off that unlikely 16-year break. And wow, they came back with this record that was mind-blowing. That's when people go, they were the Beatles, weren't they? No pressure, right?
Well, you never know. They might have something recorded. You never know.
I don't think they've recorded anything yet, but it wouldn't take that long. They wouldn't have to spend years doing it because the band's already read off from touring. It's it's the descriptions of the way Liam sang from Owen Morris is amazing, wasn't it? Like Noel turned up with a song he'd just written, he had write the lyrics, play his acoustic guitar, sing the tune to Liam, and Liam would go in and record the song 2 takes. You go, wow. It normally takes every all day to get the vocals right, and he had him absolutely perfect. And Noel Morris said, "How do you do that?" And he said, "This is my book." And he said, "These songs are in me," which is so. When you take a step back and think about that statement, it's quite fascinating because it was Noel wrote the songs, but Liam felt the songs as well because they've grown up in the same bedroom together. So, 16 years have been stuck in the same bedroom in the council house, and they're both coming off the same page. No wonder they fell out, because they were so close. You are going to fall out, So it's and that to me measured something. Maybe that's the point, the remarkable point that band, that thing where Liam completely understood the songs. Whatever Noel turned up with, Liam was on the page straight away. In the way that when you watch Get Back, the defining moment is they're fucking about, nothing's really happening. John and Paul look at each other, and it's like a love story. They're just locked into this zone, and the whole rest of the room just disappears, doesn't it? It's just like, and then you think, there it is. That's the Beatles magic, isn't it? The ideas, it's like the premise of the internet. The ideas go through the rooms from eyeball to eyeball. They really were eyeball to eyeball, weren't they? They're on the same page, and they're both exactly filled in what the other one didn't have, and the respect between them. It's amazing. You don't ever see that in any other bands. And inevitably, the wheels will come off that, weren't they? But for the years they had it was a completely beautiful thing. And that energy they had transfers to the songs, then it transfers to the records, and it transfers to the audience. So everybody's in that little zone. But what was really funny is when in the room, locked out zone, you could sort of see George sat behind him with his tea and biscuit looking really left out, like the little kid disappearing. So that's when he starts getting a bit stroppy, isn't it? God bless him. Yeah. They were gods, weren't they? They changed the world. They made, even though I grew up in the 60s, but I remember them being there. I remember Yellow Submarine, which I love. I love the Yellow Submarine, great psychedelic song. It's another one people go, you can't like that. I go, fucking love it. It's a brilliant song. It's a melancholic, psychedelic children's song. There's a very small genre of those, of one. It's ace. And that's a great song like that. So, but they created that pop cultural space, didn't they? Which we all exist in to this day, really. It's, what they stood for, they look like. I went to Russia, right? And then we did some gigs there 15 years ago. And this old hippie guy, he'd been around the 60s, said when the Beatles record arrived on a boat, so a sailor would come in with one Beatles single, he'd give it to the Russians, and they would take it back to the flat, and there'd be a queue right down the street, right around the block, and everyone come in and listen to that record. And it's the only Beatles record in St. Petersburg. And he said, you don't understand in the West. He said, to us, the Beatles were the sounds of freedom. And because the music sounded so upbeat. And also, when they saw the occasional picture with long hair and smiling, it looked like freedom. And he said, for him, that's where the whole Russian, well, that fleeting moment of freedom he had with Gorbachev basically started with the Beatles, and that was the power of music. And we're so blasé, we forget that, don't we? How powerful music actually is as a form, and people say, yeah, not nowadays. I go, well, let's go back and look at those Oasis gigs, shall we? I know they're expensive and it's a capitalistic model, blah, 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 but it's not about that. It's about the power of music to create so much joy and momentary freedom. And I think that's another great thing about Oasis. That's why I want to call the book Live Forever. Obviously, it's a song title. But it's that thing about, and Anarchy in the UK is the same as this. It was that thing about when you're a teenager, you feel like you are going to live forever. And it's a soundtrack to that moment, and it never leaves you, does it? So whatever generation you grew up in, the band that promised that eternal freedom of being a teenager, you stay up for 3 days, can't do crazy shit. And it doesn't fuck you up, does it? You just carry on. And you have no responsibilities. And it is genuine freedom. We're lucky to have that space, aren't we? And Anarchy in the UK was that as well. To me, Anarchy in the UK isn't a manifesto. It's not about anarchy. It's about the anarchy of pop culture and teenage freedom, really. And that's why we felt it. You need to feel it in the song. But you don't need a degree in pop culture to get that feeling, do you? And that's the beauty of pop culture. It's the most attainable art form. You could be anybody and you feel that thing. It's so primal. And that's why I love it. And I can't explain it to this day. And that's why I write about it. I'm just trying to work it out for myself. That's all I've ever done.
Yeah, we're talking about music and soundtracks of periods. Music is often the soundtrack to our lives. So what song or album instantly brings back the best memories for you?
I can't do one. It just changes all the time. Obviously, Never Mind the Bollocks is the game changer. Without Never Mind the Bollocks, I wouldn't have, fuck knows where you'd end up in it. But punk was like massive for me, but musically, I probably like the Stranglers the most because they were genuinely gnarly, psychedelic, slightly scary, strange, and I love all that kind of shit. That was probably closer to my personal aesthetic in a way. I mean, although I don't have the same views on women or something. Well, they did, but they were dark, weren't they, and malevolent, and that was fascinating, wasn't it? So I always loved their records as well. But Stone Roses' first album was an amazing record, remarkable record. To this day, you listen to it, and there's not one note on that record that you could change, is it? It's a perfect record, isn't it? So few records are perfect, and then listening to a lot of Oasis when I was doing the book, I was thinking, wow, doing super deep dives on it. And it's like, thinking, wow, I knew Noel was talented. He was knocking around town. I didn't know he was that talented. It was just like, the songs is great. But then I could spend a week just listening to Aphex Twin, just get lost in electronic music. I mean, I'm a terrible person to ask for lists of things because I don't do lists. I don't put records in a row. I don't do any of that. It's much more chaotic. I think art and culture is chaotic, and you jump from one thing to another. So you can mention a band now and go, not listen to that for ages, put it on, and I could be in that zone, and that could be the most important band for me for the next year. They're not always cool bands, they're not always game changers. It could just be great bands that people don't really listen to. I mean, it's just music's like that, and it works beyond everything, doesn't it?
Is there a band or artist that you listen to that would surprise people?
It depends I don't know what people think of me. I don't think.
Do you believe in guilty pleasures in music?
No, not at all. I hate that concept. But it was never a serious concept. I mean, it was Sean who came up with that. He's on the front cover, isn't he? Of What's the Story, More in Glory? He's one of the two characters on the cover, isn't he?
Yeah.
That's the guy who came. I love that. I love that connection. He's big mates and all and that. And he's a bit of a joke, really. But the idea of it was that you don't have guilty pleasures. So what people think were guilty pleasures, you just get them out on the table and everyone goes, that's a great tune, that. So, they would talk about the Bee Gees and stuff like that. And most of the time go, oh, the Bee Gees, but the Bee Gees are fucking amazing. I mean, Noel's a massive fan, and the disco Bee Gees is great. The harmonies, it's like, wow, those harmonies are stunning, aren't they? So it's that idea, that was his idea, but then it became this thing that, oh, it's so naff, it's good, or it's so naff, it's naff. And I can't be bothered with that, If I hear it, I like it. I don't care what anybody else thinks. It's got nothing to do with anyone else what I like. And I don't see my role as a writer or whatever is to dictate coolness. Oh, that's a cool record to like. I don't care if people think I'm cool or naff. I'm not interested. I'm from Blackpool, aren't I? So I'm not from Manchester. Manchester's cool, isn't it? Blackpool's not. And I like that. I like the way that people can't figure you out when you're from Blackpool. They think you grow up in an amusement arcade. And there was a lot of amusement arcades. When I came to Manchester, where are they all? Where's all the chip shops? There was one in every corner of Blackpool. It's just a really odd place. So in that way, I mean, I grew up in probably the capital of guilty pleasures, didn't I? So I don't get it as a concept at all. I don't need to tell you for hours I'm into the Velvet Underground, so you think I'm this really literate, cool figure with black sunglasses on. It's just not my thing. And maybe if it had been, I would have been really successful.
Finally, John, after everything, books, bands, festivals, journalism, what still gives you the biggest buzz today?
Oh, music. Listen to music, but playing music as well. I mean, it's funny because that's the thing I'm probably least known for is somebody who makes music, which is fair enough. I don't think anybody owes you nothing. When you make music, people don't have to listen to it. You see, we're a cold band. There's a certain amount of people really like what we're doing. That's great, and I really appreciate that. But one of the things I really love doing is writing songs and sitting there with somebody else, 2 guitars, face to face, just working stuff out. I've just been writing songs. A friend of mine is in town this week. Go around to his hotel. We got 2 guitars and then we just pile up the songs. We don't really think of what we're going to do with them. We just like doing them. And there's somebody, that guy, Humanist. Did that. I did a track with him a couple of years ago. And that did quite well.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Well, we did 4 more and we've forgotten about them. Then he messaged me today and said, I want to put one of these tracks out. And it's a pretty cool track because we sort of did it the same kind of way, wrote together. And I did a scat vocal on it. And I never really finished the words up. And it actually sounds really good with a scatting the vocal, just trying to work out the tune. So he wants to put it out as a single. So I was thinking, I've forgotten about that. That's a really good tune. So I like that. I like that creativity. And I don't have the fear of the blank piece of paper. You just pile in, just start playing. This is how you write a song. You go, the other person will go, what are we going to do? And I go, just start playing A minor. Just start playing it. And I'll start singing and playing something on this. So they'll play, and that's how you do it. And for about a minute, it's a bit, nothing's happening. Suddenly go, oh, I've got the tune. And it comes, doesn't it? Like writing, innit? You don't write the first paragraph first. You just start writing and then go back to the beginning. Otherwise, you just sat there trying to get the brilliant first line. You're not going to get it straight away. You've got to get into tune with that side of the brain, haven't you?
So what's next for you, John? Have you any books planned? What's happening? Anything with the Membranes or?
I've just written my memoirs. I was asked to write them by a book company. So I've finished them now. I've just going through all the edits. So I've done the first draft, and then you just go backwards over and over again, holding it down and trying to make sure I haven't forgotten anything.
That'll be good. When can we hear or read that? Next year, maybe?
Yeah, they want it out for next spring, and they've been lining up a spoken word tour to go with it. It's just a matter of if I can get it finished in time, really.
Well, it didn't take you long doing the Oasis one.
No, I know. I'm sure I can get this done. It's mad when you're in the middle of a book because sometimes you think, oh God, I'm going to run out of time. But I'm quite disciplined though. I could do the 12-hour day if I need to.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to read that. Well, John, that's me done. Thank you very much for doing this. Really, really appreciate it.
No, thanks a lot. I appreciate it as well. Mega. All right. Yeah.
Thanks, mate. Take it easy.
All right. Bye.
Bye.